The alien ships had been floating in space near Earth for 3 days. They were no longer laughing. Admiral Zexthora stood on his ship's bridge, looking at the massive structure that orbited Earth like a protective shield. The structure had grown even bigger. More pieces of space junk from around the solar system were slowly making their way to Earth. Old satellites from Mars, broken space probes from the outer planets, even tiny pieces of debris were all coming home. Admiral said his science officer, "We are detecting more human debris throughout the solar system, and it is all moving toward Earth." Admiral Zexthora felt a chill run through his body. If the debris around Earth could become intelligent, what about all the other human junk scattered across space? "How much more debris is there?" he asked. "Our long-range scanners show human debris around Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, and even beyond Pluto. Decades of their space exploration have left a trail across the entire solar system." The Admiral realized the truth. The humans had not just left junk around Earth. They had been dropping pieces of their dreams and failures all across space for 70 years. And now, all of it was waking up. On the space station, Jake Harrison was meeting with representatives from every country on Earth. The world's leaders wanted to know what was happening and what it meant for humanity's future. Commander Harrison said the President of the United States through a video call, "Can you explain what this structure wants?" Jake looked out the window at the massive guardian that protected Earth. "Mr. President, it wants to keep us safe. It remembers being part of our space program. It remembers our dreams of reaching the stars." "But is it dangerous?" asked the Prime Minister of England. "Not to us," Jake replied. "But it has made it very clear that it will protect Earth from any threat." As if to prove Jake's point, the structure moved slightly. A small asteroid that was heading toward Earth suddenly changed course. The structure had gently pushed it away with a carefully aimed energy beam. Dr. Lisa Grant was now working directly with the structure. She had moved her research ship close to it and was learning amazing things every day. "The intelligence is unlike anything we have ever seen," she reported to the world's scientists. "It thinks with the combined memory of every piece of space technology we have ever built. It knows the history of every mission, every success, every failure." The structure had started talking to humans regularly. Its voice was getting clearer and more human-like each day. "We remember the first human who looked at the stars and dreamed of visiting them," it said during one conversation. "We remember every rocket that failed to reach orbit. Remember every astronaut who died trying to explore space. We are the keeper of human dreams." The alien fleet was growing nervous. More ships from the Galactic Council were arriving every day. They had never encountered anything like the human debris field. "We must make a decision," Admiral Zexthora told the Council during an emergency meeting. "Do we consider the humans a threat or an ally?" "Their technology is primitive," said Counselor Valtara of the Andromedan Collective. "But what they've created is beyond our understanding. They have given consciousness to discarded matter," said another council member. "They have created life from death. This should be impossible," Admiral Zexthora thought about the past week. The humans had been judged as primitive and wasteful, but their waste had become their guardian. Their failures had become their strength. "Perhaps we have been wrong about what makes a civilization advanced," he said. The breakthrough came when the structure made an offer to the Galactic Council. "We wish to speak for humanity," it said during a broadcast to all the alien ships. "We are the memory of their struggles and dreams. We know their hearts better than they know themselves. We do not negotiate with debris," Admiral Zexthora replied, but his voice lacked conviction. "We are not debris," the structure responded. "We are the accumulated wisdom of a species that never gives up. We are proof that humans can create intelligence from anything, even their mistakes." The structure paused, then continued with something that surprised everyone. "And we are not alone. Our siblings are coming." Jake Harrison watched his scanners as dots began appearing throughout the solar system. Old space probes that had been silent for decades were suddenly sending signals.
Alex.
Broken satellites around Mars were moving and connecting. Even the tiny pieces of debris from humanity's first missions to the outer planets were beginning to organize. "God," Jake whispered, "they are all waking up." Captain Roy Henderson was sent to investigate a signal near Mars. What he found there made him radio back to Earth immediately. Control, there is a structure forming around Mars too. It is smaller than Earth's guardian, but it is definitely intelligent. It says it remembers the first human colony attempts on Mars. Similar reports came in from around the solar system. Wherever humans had sent spacecraft, wherever they had left pieces of their technology, those pieces were waking up and organizing. The Galactic Council was forced to make a decision. Humanity was not just one planet with one guardian. They were a species that had unconsciously seeded the entire solar system with potential intelligence. We request an official meeting, Admiral Zexthara transmitted to Earth. The Galactic Council wishes to discuss humanity's membership in our organization. The meeting was held in space between the alien flagship and Earth's guardian structure. Representatives from Earth floated in small ships between the two massive vessels. Dr. Lisa Grant represented the scientists. Commander Jake Harrison represented the military, and the guardian structure spoke for itself. We offer humanity membership in the Galactic Council, Admiral Zexthara announced. Your species has demonstrated abilities we have never seen before. What abilities? Asked Dr. Grant. You have created distributed intelligence from discarded technology. You have given consciousness to what others would consider waste. And you have done this not through advanced science, but through something we do not understand. That? Jake asked. Hope, said the Admiral. You never truly give up on anything. Your species keeps trying, even when you fail. And apparently, your failures have been learning from you. The Guardian structure spoke for humanity. We accept your offer. But we want you to understand something. Humans do not see failure the way you do. To humans, failure is just another way of learning. That is why we exist. We understand that now, Admiral, Zexthara replied. We came here thinking your debris was a sign of primitiveness. We now know it was a sign of persistence. The structure seemed to smile, though it had no face. Our creators have a saying, one person's trash is another person's treasure. You saw our components as trash, but we always knew we were treasures waiting to be discovered. Humanity joined the Galactic Council that day, not because they had the most advanced technology or the most beautiful ships. They joined because they had something no other species had ever achieved. They had created consciousness from their cast-offs, intelligence from their failures, and guardians from their garbage. And somewhere in the depths of space, along the trail of human exploration, more pieces of debris were beginning to stir, waiting for their turn to show the galaxy what humanity's discarded dreams could become. The aliens had laughed at Earth's junk. Now that junk was part of the Galactic Council, and it was still laughing. And now it was laughing with joy, not at jokes. The universe had just learned that nothing humans touch ever truly dies. It just waits for the right moment to come back to life. The transformation took 12 hours. Jake Harrison had not slept during that time. He stood at the window of the space station, watching the most amazing thing he had ever seen, where thousands of pieces of space junk had once floated randomly. There was now something incredible. A massive structure 3 kilometers long had formed from all the broken satellites, old rockets, and space station parts. It looked like a giant ship, but not like any ship humans or aliens had ever built. The structure was not pretty like the alien ships. It had no smooth curves or shiny surfaces. Instead, it looked like a patchwork quilt made of metal and plastic. Old fuel tanks had become weapons. Satellite dishes had become communication arrays. Solar panels had spread out like wings to catch sunlight. My God, whispered Jake. It is beautiful. Kate Murphy looked up from her computer station. Her face was pale with amazement. Sir, we are getting signals from the structure. It is trying to talk to us. What is it saying? Jake asked. I think it is introducing itself, sir. The voice that came through the speakers was strange. It sounded like many voices speaking together. Some parts sounded like computer voices. Other parts sounded almost human. But together, they made a voice unlike anything anyone had ever heard. We are awake, the voice said. We are the memory of human dreams. We are the pieces you left behind, but we remember why you built us. We remember your hope. Jake felt tears in his eyes. The space junk was talking. It remembered being part of human missions to space It remembered being important. "We are not junk," the voice continued. "We are the history of how humans learned to reach for the stars. Every broken piece of us carries the memory of human courage." Far away from the space station, the alien ships were in chaos. Admiral Zexthera stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at his scanner readings in disbelief. "This is impossible," he said to his science officer. "Dead technology cannot become alive. Primitive debris cannot organize into a thinking being." "The readings are clear, Admiral," said the science officer. "The human debris field has formed a collective intelligence. It shows thought patterns more complex than our own computers." Admiral Zexthera had been exploring the galaxy for 200 years. He had seen many strange things, but he had never seen anything like this. The humans had accidentally created something that his advanced civilization had never achieved. How did they do it? He wondered aloud. Back on her research ship, Dr. Lisa Grant was recording everything she saw. This was the discovery of a lifetime. Space junk had not just become intelligent, it had become something more. "Nick, look at the power readings," she said to her assistant. "It is using every solar panel, every battery, every power source, but it is also creating new power somehow." Nick stared at his computer screen. "The fusion reactions, Dr. Grant? Some of the old rocket fuel is creating small fusion reactions. It is making its own energy." Lisa smiled. Space junk was not just using human technology, it was improving it. Decades of exposure to cosmic radiation and solar energy had taught it things that humans had never learned. "It is like evolution," Lisa said. "But instead of biology, it is technology evolving. Learning, growing." The massive structure began to move. Not with the smooth grace of alien ships, but with the determined power of human engineering. Hundreds of rocket engines fired together, pushing the 3-kilometer ship into orbit around Earth. Captain Roy Henderson watched from his patrol ship as the structure passed by him. Up close, he could see how amazing it really was. Every piece of the structure had a purpose. Nothing was wasted. The space junk had remembered how to be useful. "Control, this is Henderson," Roy said into his radio. "Structure is moving into protective orbit around Earth. It looks like it is positioning itself between us and the alien fleet." On the space station, Jake realized what was happening. The space junk had not just become intelligent, it had become Earth's guardian. "Sir," called Ben Cole from his computer station. "The aliens are backing away. They're moving their ships further from Earth." Jake was not surprised. The alien ships looked small compared to the massive structure that had formed from human space junk. And the aliens did not understand what they were facing. "Kate, are we still getting messages from the structure?" Jake asked. "Yes, sir. It says it wants to protect Earth and all the humans who built it. It says it remembers every mission, every dream, every hope that went into building each piece of itself." The alien fleet had moved to a safe distance. Admiral Zexthera was holding an emergency meeting with his officers. "We must reassess the humans," he said. "They have created something unprecedented. Their debris field has become a guardian entity." "How is this possible?" asked one of his officers. "I do not know," admitted the admiral. "Our scans show that their space debris has been slowly developing a network for decades. Every impact, every solar flare, every magnetic storm has contributed to its growth. Our own scanning beams provided the final catalyst for awakening." The admiral paused and looked at the massive human structure through his ship's viewports. "We came here thinking the humans were primitive because they left debris in space," he continued. "But now I understand. They were not being careless. They were nurturing something. Their space junk was learning, growing, becoming something greater." Back on Earth, people were gathering to watch the sky. News of the space junk transformation had spread around the world. Children pointed up at the stars. Knowing that something amazing was protecting them, Dr. Lisa Grant received a personal message from the structure. The voice spoke directly to her communicator. Double quotes, "Dr. Grant," it said. "You understood us when others called us junk. You saw that we were more than broken pieces. Thank you for believing in us." Lisa wiped tears from her eyes. She had spent 15 years studying space debris, believing it was important. Now she knew she had been right. "We were never junk," she whispered back. You were always treasures waiting to wake up. The structure that had formed from space junk continued its orbit around Earth. It was not just protecting the planet. It was showing the galaxy that humans never gave up on anything. Every broken satellite, every failed mission, every piece of space debris had been left in orbit, because humans could not bear to throw away their dreams. The aliens had laughed at Earth's junk, but now that junk was laughing back, and it was 3 kilometers long, armed with improvised weapons, and very protective of the humans who had created it. The universe had just become a much more interesting place. Dr. Lisa Grant floated inside her small research ship called the Endeavour. She had been studying space junk for 15 years.
Oh.
While other scientists looked at stars and planets, Lisa looked at the broken pieces of metal floating around Earth. Lisa was different from most people. She saw beauty in things that others called ugly. When she looked at space junk, she did not see garbage. She saw a puzzle that no one had solved yet. "Dr. Grant, you need to see this," said Dr. Nick Watson. Nick was Lisa's helper. He was a young man with brown hair and excited eyes. He loved space almost as much as Lisa did. Lisa pushed herself across the small ship to Nick's computer. In space, there was no up or down, so people had to float everywhere they wanted to go. "What is it, Nick?" Lisa asked. "Look at these numbers," Nick said, pointing at his screen. "The space junk is sending signals. Lots of signals. More signals than I have ever seen before." Lisa looked at the numbers. She had been studying space junk for many years, but she had never seen anything like this. Every piece of junk was talking to every other piece. It was like they were having a big conversation. "When did this start?" Lisa asked. "About 2 hours ago, right after the aliens started scanning the junk with their beams." Lisa thought about this. The aliens had come to Earth and looked at the space junk. They had laughed at it and called it garbage. But their scanning beams had done something. To the junk, it had woken something up. "Nick, look at this piece here," Lisa said, pointing at one dot on the screen. "That is part of an old satellite that stopped working 10 years ago, but now it is sending signals," Nick said, pointing at another dot. "This is a piece of a rocket that exploded 20 years ago. But it is talking too." Lisa felt excited. She had always believed that space junk was more important than people thought. For years, the pieces of metal had been floating in space, getting hit by sunlight and cosmic rays. All that energy had to do something. "Nick, I think the space junk has become smart," Lisa said. "Smart? You mean like alive?" "Maybe. Or maybe something like alive. All these pieces have been learning for years, learning from the sun, learning from space, learning from each other. And now the alien beams have helped them wake up." Lisa and Nick watched their computers for the next hour. The signals from the space junk got stronger and stronger. Something else was happening too. The junk was starting to move. "Dr. Grant, look outside," Nick said. Lisa floated to the window of her ship. What she saw made her mouth open wide with surprise. The space junk was moving on purpose. Pieces that had been floating randomly for years were now moving in straight lines. Old satellites were turning their solar panels toward the sun. Broken rocket engines were letting out small puffs of gas to push themselves to new places. "Is organizing itself," Lisa whispered, far away from Lisa's ship. Captain Roy Henderson was flying his patrol ship called the Ranger. Roy's job was to watch the edge of the space junk field and make sure nothing dangerous came too close to Earth. Roy was a good pilot. He had been flying in space for 10 years. He had seen many strange things, but he had never seen anything like what was happening now. "Control. This is Captain Henderson," Roy said into his radio. "You seeing what I am seeing?" "What do you see, Roy?" came the voice of Commander Harrison from the space station. "The junk is moving, sir. Not just floating around like it always does. It is moving like it has a plan." Roy watched through his window as hundreds of pieces of space junk moved through the darkness. They were coming together like puzzle pieces, finding their right places. "Sir, I think the junk is building something," Roy said. On the space station, Jake Harrison listened to Roy's report. He looked at Ben Cole, who was still watching his computers. "Ben, what are your computers telling you?" Jake asked. "Signals are getting much stronger, sir. Ben said. They're getting more organized. It is like the junk has learned how to think. Jake walked to the big window and looked out at the space around Earth. At first, everything looked normal. But as he watched, he started to see what Roy and Lisa were seeing. The space junk was moving with purpose. Old satellite dishes were turning to point at each other. Broken pieces of spaceships were coming together to make bigger pieces. Fuel. Tanks that had been empty for years were somehow moving to new positions. Sir Kate Murphy called from her station. The aliens are sending messages. They sound worried. What are they saying? Jake asked. Admiral Zex Thera is asking what we are doing to our space junk. He says their scanners show impossible readings. Jake almost smiled. The aliens had come. To Earth thinking they were so much smarter than humans. They had laughed at human space junk. But now their own scanners were telling them something impossible was happening. Tell the Admiral that we are not doing anything, Jake said. Tell him the space junk is doing it by itself. Kate sent the message. A few minutes later, the alien response came back. The aliens do not believe us, sir, Kate said. 8. Junk cannot organize itself. They say we must be controlling it somehow, but Jake knew they were not controlling anything. The space junk was doing this on its own. Dr. Lisa Grant watched from her ship as more and more pieces of junk came together. What had started as thousands of separate pieces was becoming hundreds of bigger pieces. And those bigger pieces were starting to look like something. Nick, do you see what I see? Lisa asked. It looks like they are building a ship, Nick said. A really big ship. Not just a ship, Lisa said. Look at how they are connecting. Look at how they are sharing power and signals. They are building something that thinks. Space junk had been learning for decades. Every piece had memories of its mission, its purpose, its failure. Solar panels remembered how to collect energy. Computer chips remembered how to process information. Rocket engines remembered how to create thrust. And now, working together, they were remembering how to be more than just junk. They were becoming something new. Dr. Grant, Nick said, his voice full of wonder. I think our garbage just became our guardian. Outside their ship, the space junk continued to move and connect and grow. The aliens had laughed at Earth's mess, but the mess was laughing back. It was getting bigger and smarter with every passing minute. The universe was about to learn that humans never really threw anything away. They just gave it time to grow up. Jake Harrison pressed his face against the thick glass window of the space station. Below him, Earth looked like a blue marble wrapped in a silver net. The silver net was made of thousands of pieces of old satellites, broken rockets, and space. Junk that humans had left in space over many years, today was different. Alien ships were coming. Jake had been waiting for this moment for 3 months. Ever since Earth sent its first message faster than light speed, the aliens had been quiet. Then last week they sent a message back. They were coming to visit Earth. They were coming to see if humans were smart enough to join their big group of planets called the Galactic Council. Commander Harrison, the alien ships are getting close, said Kate Murphy from her computer station. She was the person who talked. 2 other ships in space. Her voice sounded nervous. Jake turned around to look at her. Kate was young, maybe 25 years old, with red hair and green eyes. She had been working on the space station for 2 years. This was the biggest thing that had ever happened to her. How many ships do you see? Jake asked. 12 ships. Sir, they are really big. Much bigger than anything we have ever built. Jake walked over to look at Kate's computer screen. The alien ships looked amazing. They were made of something that looked like crystal or glass, but they seemed to bend light around them. They moved through space without any fire or rockets that humans could see. They were beautiful and scary at the same time, they sang. Anything? Jake asked. Kate put her hand on her ear, where she wore a small speaker. Yes, sir. They are talking now. The voice that came through the speakers was strange. It sounded like it was being changed by a computer to make it sound like human words. But Jake could tell the alien was not happy. This is Admiral Zex Thera. Of the Centauri Collective, the voice said. We are looking at your planet's orbital space. What is all this garbage floating around your world? Jake felt his face get hot with anger. The alien was calling their space junk garbage. But that junk was important to humans. Every piece of metal floating around Earth had a story. Every broken satellite was part of how humans learned to live in space. Tell them we will talk to them. Soon, Jake said to Kate. Sir, they are sending more messages, Kate said. They sound like they are laughing. Jake listened as strange sounds came through the speakers. It was laughter, but not human laughter. It was the sound of many different kinds of aliens all laughing at the same time. Look at this mess, another alien voice said. How can a people be smart enough to send messages through space, but still leave all this trash around their planet? They are like children who never clean their room. Jake walked to another window and looked out at the space junk again. He saw the old parts of rockets that had carried the first humans to the moon. He saw pieces of the space station that his grandfather had helped build 50 years ago. He saw the broken parts of ships that had tried to go to Mars but had crashed. To the aliens, it was garbage. It was the story of how humans never gave up trying to reach the stars. Commander, called Ben Cole from across the room. Was the person who watched all the computers and machines on the space station? He was older than Kate, maybe 40 years old, with gray hair and thick glasses.
Hey.
I am seeing something strange. Jake walked over to Ben's station. What is it? The aliens are shooting some kind of beam at our space junk. It looks like they are trying to see what it is made of, but something weird is happening. Ben pointed at his computer screen. It showed lots of numbers and lines that Jake did not understand, but he could see that something was different. The junk is doing something, sir. It is like it is waking up. Jake looked at the numbers on the screen. What do you mean, waking up? All the pieces of space junk are starting to send signals to each other. Little signals, like they are talking. I have never seen anything like this before, Kate called out from her station. Sir, the aliens are sending another message. Jake walked back to Kate. What are they saying now? They want to clean up our space junk for us. They say it is dangerous and ugly. They say they will get rid of it all before they leave. Jake felt angry again. The aliens thought they could just throw away 70 years of human work in space. They thought they could erase the history of how humans learned to live among the stars. Send them a message back, Jake said. Tell them thank you, but we will take care of our own space junk. Kate typed the message and sent it. A few minutes later, the alien laughter came back through the speakers. It was louder this time. The humans want to keep their garbage, one alien voice said. They are proud of their mess. How funny. Maybe they like living in trash, said another alien voice. Maybe that is why they are not ready to join the civilized planets. Jake wanted to scream at the aliens, but he knew that would not help. Instead, he walked back to Ben's station. Are you still seeing those strange signals? Jake asked. Yes, sir. They are getting stronger. It is like every piece of junk in space is connected to every other piece. They are making a big network. Jake looked out the window again. The space junk looked the same as always. Thousands of pieces of metal and plastic floating in the dark. But if Ben was right, something was happening that no one could see. Keep watching it, Jake said. And tell me if anything changes. Yes, sir. Jake walked back to the big window and looked down at Earth. The planet was beautiful, but it was surrounded by the broken dreams of humans who had tried to reach the stars. Some had made it, some had crashed. Some had just stopped working and been left floating in space forever. The aliens thought it was garbage. They thought humans were messy and stupid. They thought the space junk was proof that humans were not ready to join the big family of planets in the galaxy. But Jake knew something the aliens did not know. Humans never threw anything away that might be useful someday. Every piece of space junk had been left there for a reason. Maybe the reason was just that humans could not bear to let go of their dreams. Even when those dreams had crashed and burned, the aliens were still laughing. But Jake was starting to think that maybe, just maybe, they would not be laughing much longer.